Watch out for Notre Dame, Georgia, and Texas Tech come playoff time.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one place in the country to get your podcasts. We are happy to be here, and we're glad to have you with us. We're going to be discussing all the latest recruiting news, as we always do. We're going to get to that later on in the show. We're going to talk about Bama's run game. Is it good enough to make a true college football playoff push? Please comment in the stats or in the messages. I'm not sure if they are, but I could be convinced. So join the chat and let me know what you think. But we're going to start off with Notre Dame, Georgia, and Texas Tech. Three teams that I think could make a playoff run, but I have questions as well. So let's start with that right now. Here's my take. I think all three of them could be in the Final Four. And once you get there, it's about attrition. Who stayed healthy? I know that's an unpopular thing to discuss, but it's a very long college football season. They've all built their rosters in different ways, although Texas Tech is probably the one that doesn't get the most respect out of this because they're a newer program to the top end of the college football world. We'll get to them in a second. I want to start with the Irish because of something I just said already. My biggest concern for Notre Dame isn't that they're a talented team, isn't that they're trending. It's injury. They don't have one. They don't have two. They have three different players that are out as offensive linemen. One hasn't even played a rep this year, Charles Jagusa. Maybe he ends up playing in the playoff. I don't know. I need to see it. But as I like to say on this podcast and every other one that I join, don't ever believe college football coaches at their press conferences or anything else that any school, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas Tech, or anybody else, puts out about injuries. You got to see it on game day because these guys lie like crazy. They don't want to give their opponents any edge. And I think a lot of coaches, honestly, are very superstitious. So they've got three out, one of which is Ashton Craig, their center. Now, they've done a good job of replacing him. That's fine. But they also don't have Billy Shrout, their left guard, who's an NFL player. Is he going to be truly healthy come playoff time? There's an expectation that he might be able to play by the Stanford game, which is Notre Dame's last game on the 29th of November, possibly. But I'd imagine they'll probably hold off because Stanford's terrible, and they might play him in the playoff. But that's a big question mark. My other question for them is pretty simple. It's the secondary. This is a weird scenario, and I don't know how to grade it. And I followed Notre Dame my whole life, fan growing up, the whole nine. I'm from Indiana. But they were not bad early in the season. They were an atrocity. And then they flipped things back around. They got some guys healthy. Leonard Moore is banged up early this season. He's healthy, taking guys away. That's great. But can you count on Notre Dame's secondary? They went back to more man coverage to really make it happen, against top teams. They didn't do that against Miami and Texas A&M in critical moments. They had poor tackling, all that. Christian Gray's been banged up. Leonard Moore's been banged up at different points. If those guys are not healthy in the playoff, I don't think Notre Dame goes very far, and they could get beat in game one. But if they are, especially with the way C.J. Carr continues to just make big plays, he's top 5 in the country, I believe, in yards per passing attempt, they're going to score. They got Jay Love, Jadarian Price, Eli Raridan, Faison. Their skill players on offense are very, very good. That defense holds up. They're in a good spot. And here's the ironic part. I haven't even mentioned Malachi Fields yet. He's the one portal addition that they brought in on offense that is a very good player. They used him a little more against Navy, who, by the way, I still don't understand their defensive philosophy, playing man coverage against Notre Dame pretty much the whole game and cover 0, cover 1. That didn't work very well for them. Giving up 49, and Notre Dame took off their starters before the third quarter was over. But I digress. That's the guy that could be the key on offense for Notre Dame, the big boundary receiver, 6'4", 220 plus. He's the only portal player on offense that has really hit because they haven't needed it. To that end, Georgia, let's talk about the Bulldogs. They have a chance to make a run too, and I don't think they're getting enough love. Despite, and I've been one of the people that picked on them about this, they use the portal in spots like Notre Dame. They don't use a whole bunch. Notre Dame had 8 portal guys. I believe Georgia's like 10 or 12. These are teams that recruit at an elite level to the high school ranks. They don't need to. They occasionally take a JUCO kid every once in a great while at Georgia. They don't even need to do that very often. The offensive line has been banged up. It's the same problem. It's the same question I have. How's that run game going to do if it's healthy? They've changed the lineup so much. It's crazy. And I got my notes here going over it, but just looking at Georgia, the other thing about them, if that run game is consistent and they showed a different gear against Mississippi State, and I know it's Mississippi State. I get it. But they smashed them. They just absolutely put their foot down and smashed Mississippi State. And that's a team that's probably better than its record. Like if they were in the ACC, where would Mississippi State be? They'd be middle of the pack at worst, probably. In the Big 12, I think they'd be very competitive. But they're in the SEC. The other question, this one's kind of weird. Zachariah Branch transferred into UGA from Southern Cal. He's a kid I saw at the Under Armour Future 50 event a few years ago, and he was just dynamic. He goes to USC, was okay, but it just didn't click, and I thought he was the perfect fit for Lincoln Riley's offense. Okay. Him and his brother transfer to Georgia. He's led them in receptions, but Branch is really not a guy that's been dynamic. He's got 53 catches for 542 yards, 10.23 yards per reception, 3 scores. Okay, a lot of short passes, etc. But he hasn't been the dynamic guy, and he's played in all 9 games. Their next leading receiver in terms of receptions, this is crazy. And he's only played in 7 games. It's Colby Young, the transfer from Miami. It's his second year in the program. 23 catches, 336 yards, 14.61, and a score. One of those 2 guys has to be a more consistent down the field threat in the playoff. And maybe they're trending in that direction. I don't know. But here's why I feel better about Georgia. Again, it's the same thing. They stomped Mississippi State, and they did so with their run game. They've got enough backs. I don't even care which player it is. But like Georgia's run games, Nate Frazier, Chauncey Bowens, Stockton is a way better runner than people give him credit for. And he actually leads the Dogs in rushing touchdowns with 7. Do not discount my guy Gunner. He's one of the nicest kids I ever covered at a 7-on-7 event. He is wholesome in every way you can imagine. He's got some qualities that everybody needs to have, to be honest. But on the football field, he'll run over you. He'll run around you. Doesn't care. He is a guy. So that run game keeps going. It's my prediction, but I think Georgia's going to hit some bigger plays in the passing game come the playoffs. And don't be surprised by it. Again, Stockton's a part of all of it because he's the QB. But watch the offensive line. If they are healthy and they finally come up with a concise unit, and I don't know if that'll happen all year for UGA, that could be a team that makes a deep run. They could be in the title game. It would not surprise me. Finally, Texas Tech. This one's a little bit different for another reason. Texas Tech plays a schedule in the Big 12 that's competitive, but it's still not the same in one regard. Barry Morton's been banged up, number one. And by the way, congrats to everybody on that staff, their backup players, everybody that's come in to help at the quarterback position in any way, shape, or form. They've done a tremendous job. He hasn't had as many reps because of the injury, but now he's back and he looks pretty good. But the Big 12 lacks one thing consistently and always has. They don't have the D linemen that rush the passer, and they don't have the same corners as like the SEC Big 10. They don't. It's not even close. How do I know how good their passing game is going to be at the playoff level? Utah, they beat up on them. Okay. But does Utah have the same kind of guys in LSU or Alabama or Notre Dame or Ohio State? One of those would be if they played them in the playoff. Oregon's loaded in the secondary. That's another possibility. I don't know. That's my one big question. And it's not Texas Tech's fault. I'm not saying they can't, but they haven't played any teams like that have elite, top-of-the-end NFL draft corners. Like Leonard Moore hasn't come across their screen. Bama's DBs, like, which one do you want to pick? Hasn't come across their screen. Georgia's DBs hasn't come across their screen. All those stat lines would be different if they played some of those teams, so I'm a little curious. The other thing about Texas Tech, Bryce Pollock, let's flip it to the other side, is a really good defensive back for them. He can take away guys, even in the Big 12, which has got a lot of receivers. It doesn't get as much respect as it needs. But is he going to be able to do that? Again, just flipping it against those same teams, or like at Ohio State. Notre Dame's got really good receivers. Georgia, we just talked about it. They got some talent. They just need to use it a little differently. I think they could be a problem. We know Bernard and Ryan Williams at Bama Ole Miss's receivers, etc. Could you put him on somebody and take away their top guy? I don't know. I think it's possible, and I'd be curious to see how Tech does it. But here's the biggest reason that I like Tech in the playoff, and it's a very basic one. They run the ball. Ironically, because I talked about Notre Dame in this segment as well, Tech has a offense that's just below Notre Dame by like a yard in rushing. They're in the top 30 in the country. Now, I know, again, it's the Big 12. It's not a great defensive league. It's not. But they're physical at the offensive line positions. I didn't know much about them before this season, but I've watched them 3 or 4 times. They'll get after you. I think they can run the ball on some of those same schools, Bama, Georgia, Notre Dame. I think they would have some success, and that gives Morton a chance. So maybe they could have a better chance in a game that goes into the upper 20s all the way to the low 40s. Would they have a chance maybe in a game that goes into overtime? Do they have the ability to run it and throw it? Yes. I think all of Notre Dame, Georgia, and Texas Tech, they have some things to clear up, like Notre Dame with the injuries, all that. That's fine. But at the same time, more importantly, the season's not over. We got a few games left. Let's see what they do. And to that end, I have a question for everybody that I want to talk about on the other side of the break. Is Alabama, talking about playoff teams, are they going to even end up in the playoff? They still got to play Oklahoma. They got to play Auburn. It's possible they could lose one or both of those games. And the biggest reason is their run game. If it is not going to improve, can Bama make a run or even make the playoff? That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. College football is as exciting as it can be. We're talking about the playoff. We're talking about the transfer portal. We're talking about the Heisman, all the different things that are going on. It's been a really exciting season, and it's just getting better. Tailgates, rivalries, and everything else. There's nothing quite like going to a college football game. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets, it can be a big battle. Sometimes you're going to end up getting some surprise fees at the end when you try to buy tickets, but that's not the case with Game Time, the place that I just recently bought tickets. It gives you, the fan, the advantage because the price you see at the beginning is the one that you get at the end. That's the way it was with me, and I really appreciated that. I just bought 2 tickets for my dad and I to go to a basketball game in and out in 5 minutes, including putting in my credit card information. Really simple. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. If you have not already, become an everydayer. We're doing live shows every day at noon Eastern time. Unless I have something else special going on, it's always going to be noon Eastern time, Monday through Friday, and we're going to have a blast with it. Playoffs, transfer portal, recruiting news, we're going to get to a little bit of that. But right now, we're going to talk about Bama's rushing attack. I actually just did a show with Luke Robinson, just put it up here on the Portal Podcast, and it's a little weird because you think of just traditional Bama, forget Saban, even before then, Gene Stallings, the Bear, every coach they've had, boom, they're going to hit you in the mouth, run the football. Not this year's team. Before I throw out the stat, just take a guess. There are 136 teams in the FBS. Where do you think the University of Alabama ranks running the football? What do you think? You ready? 120th. 111.9 yards per game. That is really bad. Here's the crazy stat, though, that Luke gave me, and shout out to Luke over at Locked On Bama. He does a tremendous job. This stat is unbelievable. A.K. Deere is the guy that came in, the stud freshman out of Mississippi. Great prospect. He has the longest run for Bama this year. It's a 56-yard run, but it was against Louisiana Monroe. It was like game 2. They won 73-0. It was in mop-up time. Their longest run by a running back, if you take out that mop-up time running back carry there by the freshman, is 22 yards. All the talent that Bama has recruited, and their running back room is really talented. 22 yards. They got multiple players with 22-yard runs. That's it. And overall, they just don't run the ball that well. In their last 2 games combined, they have 128 yards rushing. Now, you can say in today's world, that's good enough because they throw it all around and Ty Simpson's a dude. And 100% he is. Right now, He's top 3 for me in the Heisman race and probably is for just about every guy that actually has a Heisman vote. Kind of hard not to give him that nod. But when you get into the playoff, let's just use the teams I've already talked about today. Notre Dame's defense, Texas Tech's defense, Georgia's defense, good Lord, Ohio State's defense. If you're one-dimensional, by and large, could you make a serious run and even make the Final Four? Because I'm all in on Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, and just a plethora of smart decisions made by Simpson, whether it's to throw it away, go get 4 yards running. He makes the right decisions in the passing game, whether the play really works or not. He doesn't turn it over. He keeps Bama ahead of the chains with the short passing game. Okay, great. But is that going to work? Again, kind of the same question I brought up with Texas Tech. We don't know with them because their schedule's not the same as Bama's. How are their receivers going to react when they play teams that can just straight up play man coverage and try to take your best players away? Well, Bama's got guys that can beat you there. But even so, you're not going to win every rep passing the football. Could they be efficient enough against Tech, against Oregon, against Georgia, somebody like that in the playoff, where if they run for 50 yards, could they win one of those games? Luke's concerned about it, and he's a diehard Bama fan, runs the Locked On Bama channel. That pretty well narrows it down for me that it's a concern. I'm thinking right now that they're not going to make the Final Four because not the fact of the talent, like they've got maybe the best center for this next year's draft if he turns pro. They have Caden Proctor, who's good. He's not as good as I think some people think he is, but he's really talented, obviously a very gifted athlete at left tackle. But they don't even try to run the ball. If Bama doesn't make a run and they have a game in the playoff, in my opinion, where they struggle, I think it's for a different reason. I think it's because of the coaches. And I'm not trying to be mean here, but at the same time, if you really look at Alabama's coaching staff, they're known for their passing. They are. They have been at their other stops. And I'm not saying you can't do that. This is a new era. Maybe they'll be the first team that makes a run without a rushing attack. But is that the best way to do it? I would lean strongly on no. And let me just add in something here to that point. If you get down, and Ty Simpson, he's somewhat mobile, but you can really tee off, and we're talking about the elite teams like the passer. Let's just say they play Texas Tech. David Bailey on one side, that's a starting point. You got to know where he's at. By the way, that'd be a great matchup with him against Caden Proctor. Are they going to be able to just throw the ball down the field in 2-minute drill at the end of the half or trying to make a comeback? They go 2-minute offense. Are they going to be able to do that against teams that have guys, Bubakar Traore at Notre Dame? Would they be able to do that? I don't know. That's an awfully big ask because while Simpson's somewhat mobile and he gets the ball out quick, makes good decisions, that's a rough pill to try to swallow if you don't have much of a run game. It really changes things. When we come back, we're going to finish up with what we always talk about here on the noon show, and that's the latest commitments in recruiting. I have a couple notes in general. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's score to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets, if you want, into a same-game parlay for an even bigger payout. It keeps the game exciting, especially when your team's making a late fourth quarter run. Right now, FanDuel is giving out $300 in bonus bets to new customers when your first $5 bet is a winner. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's talk a few notes on recruiting, a few commitments, decommitments, and all that. Just an overview. I'm not going to hit on the portal today, but I will make this quick announcement. We had Dylan Edwards. The talk is he's getting in the portal. Had that show up a couple days ago. Check it out on the Portal Podcast. He is what I call the tipping point for everything happening. From what I'm hearing from behind the scenes, stuff that's not public yet, we are about to see an explosion into the portal. And it is a note. I've said I'm going to do this, and I will every single day. January 2nd through January 16th is the portal window this year. The portal window. What do you mean, Brian? It's the only one. There is no spring window. Whatever team you root for, whatever conference you follow, or anything else with college football, it is completely different. Signing day still December 3rd. It's right after the season. It's 4 days afterwards, which is going to be wild for the coaching carousel. But will your team be ready? Is it preparing accordingly now? Is it going to retain its players? All that stuff. We're going to be talking a ton about that over the next few weeks as we get close. I might even do a few more previews, just teams, what I think they need, like teams that came up short making the playoff that could make a run. We're going to discuss that more. But just know, again, we're about to see an explosion with the portal. But for now, just a few things just to note for the latest commitments and decommitments. Number one here, there are a lot of kids that are thinking about flipping and taking visits. So follow the visits, whatever school you're really into. It could be Texas, it could be Oklahoma, it could be Illinois, it doesn't matter. Follow the visits. Are your commitments coming to campus, especially the ones that live within a 3-hour radius? If they're not, that's something to watch. Here's another example. Legend Bay just decommitted from Tennessee and flipped to Ohio State. He's a kid just outside of Dallas, plays at North Forney High School, plays quarterback, DB, receiver, whatever he wants. He's a tremendous athlete. He has flipped his commitment from the Vols to the Buckeyes. He's one of the most exciting players in the country. My only question is, where does he end up playing for Ohio State? Is it going to be DB or receiver? They're going to use him a little bit at running back. He's that guy. Congrats to Ohio State, and that's a tough loss for the Vols. I mean, he would probably be very dynamic in Josh Heupel's offense as a slot. But whatever he was going to play at Tennessee, that's now going to be discussed in Columbus, Ohio. He is a part of that program. Aiden Woods has decommitted from North Carolina. He's a kid that is a big tight end. He's going from UNC to West Virginia. He is from Abingdon, Virginia, 6'6", 255 pounds. That's a big dude. He's going to be heading over. We got Jace Winchester from Dakota Ridge in Littleton, Colorado. He's decommitted from Colorado State. So the in-state school is not going to be his option. And then on the other side of it, who's committed and where? We just talked about the opportunity for the flip with Legend Bay, but DeAnthony Lafayette, he had decommitted from LSU. Of course, all the Brian Kelly stuff at LSU. You knew there'd be a few. And he's a kid from Lake Nona High School. It's on the south side of Orlando. I know that area well. He's decided to stay home in the state of Florida. He has flipped his commitment to Miami. Pure edge rusher, really twitchy. He's not the longest guy in the world, but at the same time, he can dip and rip. He's a guy that plays 100 mile an hour. I think Miami fans will be very happy with him later on in his career. Also, with the commitments, there's nothing major beyond what I've talked about. We're going to see a few other guys from other schools that don't get as much love, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out here. Xavier Massey, South Sumter and Bushnell, Florida, just outside Orlando. Interior offensive lineman, 6'3", 290 pounds. He's committed to Eastern Carolina. Zeke Andrews, an athlete, 6'6", 210 pounds, out of Raiston Valley in Arvada, Colorado, has committed to Colorado State. So they got one and lost one. And David Veig, I think it is, or Veig, he's from Prairie High School in Battleground, Washington. He's a quarterback, 6'1", 185 pounds. He is headed to Nevada. Thank you very much for checking out the Portal Podcast. I appreciate you stopping in. Again, remember, for recruiting, follow the business the next couple of weeks. We got all these rivalry games. If your school doesn't have a ton of kids on campus that are committed, especially the ones that are closer, why? Follow the visits. Are they visiting somewhere else? Did they have something else going on? Could they not get away from their high school team? There are reasons. But if your team has recruits not visiting, they've been committed a long time, that's a concern. Signing day is December 3rd. And also on that same note, some of it's not public yet. But as the transfer portal gets closer and the season comes closer to being over, we're going to see an explosion. Absolutely will. We're going to talk about it right here on the Portal Podcast. I have multiple shows today, including the noon live show. Check it out. Make sure you like and subscribe. This has been the Portal Podcast.